I was glad to be back for the 2 weeks, 3 weeks, well, it will be 3 weeks that I've been back. But I have to go. You don't have to have that loud thing unless there's okay. But it's time for me to go back. Not quite yet. I mean, I have like another week, but I'm ready to go back. Um, I will have to say that this has probably been one of, not a rough break. It's been pretty great. I've had a lot of good days, and I really needed it. But I feel like the enemy he's definitely tried to discourage me throughout just these 2 weeks that I've been here. The thought that frequently crossed my mind was, you can just stay here, stay put, and you can just do school online. You don't have to go back. You can just stay here. And even last night or the night before, I had a dream that that's what I did. And I stood here and I was, yeah. And a part of me was like, oh, that's God. Like, that's what I'm supposed to do. But that's not it. Because if that's it, then me going out there and me spending the time and me growing the time, all that I have grown, then it would have been for nothing. And I think that's what my message is about tonight, is that there's always a but God moment. But before there's those but God moments, there's those moments where we say, well, God, if only. Because these past couple months, I know how many times I've said, well, God, if only I was in the mood, I would go minister to that person. If only all of this made sense, everything that you're doing in my life, if I could see from point A to point B and all of it made sense, if only it made sense, I would do it. And if only you sent a sign, if only, God, you sent that sign, then I would do 100% what you're asking me to do. And this statement is like, we're suggesting to God that we know more than He does. Or maybe I'm the only one. Because I know that these past couple months, I've had too many if only moments. I've had moments where I said, well, God, if only you did this. These past couple months, the Lord has literally dealt with me in the most uncomfortable ways I could ever imagine. Like, I'm so uncomfortable, and I had better ways to deal with them, but He knew what He was doing, and they were very uncomfortable. But there was a specific moment where He wanted me, a person had spoken something, not to me directly, it was to a group of people, and it really impacted my life, and it really started dealing with something that was inside of me, to the point where it was the root of that thing that was addressed. And I was like, oh, no, because he was the last person that I thought would ever say something to impact me in that way. And I had class with this person. And it was spoken, and then I kind of just didn't say anything else to that person, and then I just left it. And then on the last day that we had class together, God said, you need to go tell that person how much that impacted you. And I sat there, and I was like, you're kidding me. I'm in the middle of class. I'm like, you're kidding me. And I said, okay, God, I'll go talk to that person if only that person leaves after me. No. If he leaves before me, I'll go talk to him. And I was like, all right, that's it. So I get up, pack my stuff, and he's still there, and I walked out, and I was gone. And then I was walking down the hallway, and I had stopped to go throw something in the trash, I think, and I turned around, and there that person was, and I was like, if only God. And as soon as I was about to walk the other direction, he said, no, turn around and go tell that person. So I turned around, and I went and told him, and it was a really blessed moment, and I'm glad that I was obedient. But the thing is that I suggested that I knew better than what God was trying to tell me to do. That lack of faith, that fear, that doubt, because this person knows a lot of people. And I can't go up to that person and tell that person what it was that he talked about. I can't be vulnerable with this person I don't even know. I can't tell them the area that it touched in my life because he knows a lot of people, and if I let him know, I don't know what's going to happen. Anyway, that's what I want to talk about tonight, is that we suggest that we know more than God because we have it all figured out in our heads. If we go to Luke 5, verse 17. Okay. We'll read 17 through 20. One day as he was teaching, talking about Jesus, there were Pharisees and teachers of the law sitting there who had come from every village of Galilee and Judea and from Jerusalem. And the power of the Lord was present with him to heal. Some men came carrying on a stretcher a man who was paralyzed, and they tried to bring him in and lay him down in front of Jesus. But finding no way to bring him in because of the crowd, they went up on the roof and removed some tiles to make an opening and lowered him in through the tiles with his stretcher into the middle of the crowd in front of Jesus. When Jesus saw their active faith springing from confidence in him, he said, "Man, your sins are forgiven." When you first look at this story, it's like, wow, those men are the prime example of what we should be as Christians. When we can't find a way in through the front door, then we better find a way in through a window. Because we need to get to Jesus. Their persistence and their determination to get their friend to Jesus. And this is also an example of how the community of Christ should be. Is that when we see someone that's fallen, when we see someone that's hurting, that's broken, we should do everything in our control, everything that we can possible to bring that person to Jesus. Not behind him, not on the side of him, but right in front of Jesus. And this happens in a lot of cases with Jesus. There's a woman with the issue of blood. She pushed through the crowd until she got what she needed from Jesus because she knew that's what she needed. But in this story in particular, I'm not concerned about the men pushing their way and finding their way to Jesus. I'm more concerned about the people that Jesus calls out and then he proves something to them, and he didn't have to. In verse 21 through 22, the scribes and the Pharisees began to consider and question the implications of what he had said, saying, "Who is this man who speaks blasphemies by claiming the rights and prerogatives of God? Who can forgive sins, that is, remove guilt, nullify sin's penalty, and assign righteousness, except God alone?" But Jesus, knowing their hostile thoughts, answered them, "Why are you questioning these things in your hearts?" See, sometimes we become those people. Maybe not to that extent. Maybe we don't say that it's blasphemous or anything like that, but we begin to suggest, who is this man? No, Jesus, let me tell you how to do it. We see the miracles. When we first come to Christ, we have this fire and we have this glow, and we're ready to see the miracles for everybody else, and we're ready to see the miracles for ourselves. But all of a sudden, when we start to get comfortable and we start to get in this routine, whoa, Jesus, that's not how we should do it. If only you did it this way, it would probably work better. We start questioning him. We start saying, "Oh no, Jesus, I don't think you meant that one. I think you meant that one. I don't think you meant me. I think you meant her." And he says, "Who are you to question me?" We begin to give ourselves too much credit, and we think, "Oh, well, we could say this because I'm a child of God." But let me tell you, yes, you are a child of God, but God doesn't need you to do the work that he already has planned.
Yeah. Come on. Yes, thank you.
We're constantly making these suggestions on how to make things better, but we're not seeing the things which the Lord is trying to make better in us.
Amen.
See, I didn't see that the things that were making me uncomfortable were the things that were going to bring out other things in my life that I needed to deal with. Yeah, they were making me very uncomfortable, and I constantly said, "God, I don't think that's what I'm supposed to do. God, I don't think that I'm supposed to feel this way." But if I hadn't felt that way, those things wouldn't have been revealed in my heart. Because he makes no mistake. There was never a time where he was like, maybe I should take that back. maybe you're right. No, he makes no mistakes. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he does it because he loves us, and he listens to everything that we're saying. In these next couple verses, it says, which is easier to say, your sins are forgiven, or to say, get up and walk? So Jesus here gives them two options. Okay, which is easier? And then in 24, he says, but in order that you may know that the Son of God has authority and power on the earth to forgive sins, he said to the paralyzed man, I say to you, get up, pick up your stretcher, and go home. He said, look, which one's easier? How about this? I'll give you both. He didn't have to. What did he have to prove to them? What does God have to prove to us when we make these suggestions? He doesn't have anything to prove to us, and he didn't have anything to prove to them. But because he was listening to what they were saying, he said, here, I'll give you both. Just because. Just because I can. Just because I'm faithful and you don't want to believe me, so here, I'll give you something to believe me for. Every single promise that he's given you, and you want to question it, here, I'll give you something to believe for that promise. I don't have to, but I will. I don't have to give you what you're asking of me, but I will. Because he loves us and because he's faithful and he can't deny himself. And then in verse 25 it just says, he immediately stood up before them, picked up his stretcher, and went home glorifying and praising God. That man was already healed when Jesus said it the first time. The man didn't need to be healed twice. But because they didn't believe, Jesus said, here, I'll heal him again. The man didn't question it. He received it. He was going to get up. He was going to go. The first time Jesus said it was enough for him. But it seems like all of us that are in church have become, maybe we need to do that one more time. Can you just show me that again? And I get it. Because I was there. I'm still there. Because it still doesn't make sense. But because God is who he says he is and he never changes, he's going to show us and he's going to do the things that he's already said he was going to do. In 2 Timothy 2:13, it says, if we are faithless, he remains faithful, true to his word and his righteous character, for he cannot deny himself. God doesn't do it for us. It's because of who he is. It's inside of him. He can't change it. It never changes. This is probably one of my favorite verses because when I remember that I'm faithless and God, you can't. I don't know what's going on right now. Confused. But when I lack in faith, when I'm sitting here fearful and on the ground and God, I don't know what to do next. I don't know which turn to take. I don't know who to call right now. He remains faithful. And I've been there, church. I'm there. But somehow we've let these if-only moments overtake us. We overanalyze everything that God's doing because it's not logical, because it doesn't make sense. Name one story in the Bible that actually made sense. David and Goliath made no sense. David still being a man after God's own heart, after he was a murderer? What? Jesus being an innocent man and going and dying on a cross for a bunch of people that were going to sin anyway? Not one person on this earth would do that. But the thing is that God makes no mistakes. When he tells you he's going to do what he's going to do, he's going to do it. Because he makes no mistakes and because he leaves nothing unfinished. All those times I've heard so many people say, oh, well, you know, this is a promise that the Lord has given me and this is what I need to do to fulfill it. And I believe it. I believe that those people were given promises. But all of a sudden they stopped doing it. They stopped doing what they said the Lord needed them to do. They're leaving it unfinished, but the Lord isn't going to leave that unfinished. He doesn't leave things unfinished. Every single person in here he's still working on. You guys aren't left unfinished. Everything that he's doing in your life, it may seem like, well, what about this promise that he gave me 10 years ago? What about this one from a couple months ago? God, I don't see you doing anything. He doesn't leave things unfinished. He's going to remain faithful. The thing is, are you going to remain faithful? Are you going to let these if only moments triumph your but God moment? In John 15:16, but God doesn't leave things unfinished. He doesn't make no mistakes. And it's this statement right here. Jesus is talking to the disciples, but it's this statement right here that causes us to have a but God moment. Because he says, you have not chosen me, but I have chosen you, and I have appointed and placed you and purposefully planted you so that you would go and bear fruit and keep on bearing. That your fruit will remain and be lasting, so that whatever you ask of the Father in my name, as my representative, he may give to you. It's not because of who we are, but it's because God called us. He appointed us, and he placed us, and purposefully planted us. This statement right here is what causes us to be able to say, you know, I'm not perfect, but God, I can't do this. I'm a sinner and I'm all jacked up. But God said that we don't have to stay that way. But God sent Jesus so that we wouldn't have to die a sinner. We need to stop being so concerned about what everything else looks like. About what everybody else is going to say. You know how many times I've been told that I need a backup plan? Don't have one.
Praise God.
You know how many people that I've seen in college that are going and they're going to major in ministry, but all of a sudden they changed it because they need a backup plan. What about God? See, the thing is, God doesn't need a backup plan. He wants to use you, but he doesn't have to. I know so many people that are wasting away their calling because they don't believe in the ministry. Because everybody's telling them around them that they need a backup plan. We need to stop being so concerned about our backup plans and start being concerned about Jesus and what he's called you to do. Where are our but God moments?
Lord, thank you. Woo. Thank you.
And I'm not saying this because I haven't had them, because I've needed them. This morning at the altar was probably the first time in a while that I cried like that. But my but God moments have to try up every other statement that I make. Every time that I was down, every time that I was like, God, I don't want to do this. The number of times that I've texted Rebecca and tell her, I want to go home. I really don't want to do this. But God said no. We could be as doubtful as we want. We could be as fearful as we want. But God is always going to be faithful. We can sit here and we can cry, and I get it. Do it. But go to God. Don't just do it because you want to sit here and feel sorry for yourself, or because you want everyone to see what you're doing, or because you trust me, church, I get lost. There's times where I literally don't know how I'm going to make it to the next day because I'm like, God, what's going on? But he doesn't make a mistake. He chose each and every person to be here. Every path that you guys had to take to get here, he chose that. Every path that you had to take to get here, he wouldn't have changed that because he's going to make you victorious in the end. It doesn't matter what your past looks like. Trust me, my parents just... I don't know if any of you guys seen the video of my testimony, but not ideal. And sharing that was so hard for me because people are watching. People don't think I mess up. But God doesn't. God knew what he was doing. Yeah, those things that I had to go through and the things that I had to face, they were very frustrating. And to be honest, I shouldn't even be going to the university that I'm going to. But God said. Every thought that questions God or doubts the work that he's doing in your life or the lives of people around you, can easily be trumped by a but God. And sometimes, church, our lack of faith affects the people around us. Because each and every one of you here are leaders. Somebody's watching you. And when you start lacking in faith, the people around you start lacking faith. And when I say that, I'm talking about the generations under you. Because my generation don't know where they're at. Not here. But God can do whatever He wants to do. And if you guys start lacking faith, then those kids back there are going to start lacking faith. Even for the little things. God is able to do anything He wants. And to be honest, this is not something that I wanted to talk about. But I'm going to say it anyway because it's something that is very frustrating to me. My generation needs to stop holding back. And I'll go as far as saying that today's church needs to stop holding them back. Because so many people, like I said earlier, have lost faith in the ministry, and you need a backup plan, you need to do this and you need to do that. So they've just stopped. My generation could raise up so many preachers, and I'm not saying this to glow or to have pride, but do you guys see the confidence they have? You guys see the potential that they have. They're not afraid to speak what they think. So what if they were thinking about God?
Come on.
What about then? Do you think that they would speak about God then? But they're not here. Because so many people, well, you can just be involved in church. You can just go to church on Sunday and you'll be fine. And this is coming from people who are Christians, who faithfully serve God. But they're too scared and they're too fearful to allow the younger generations to step up and have a voice.
Come on.
See, everybody wants this fire to start. They want this revival to start. And I've heard it countless times that the revival is going to come with this next generation. But the hard part isn't starting the fire. The hard part is keeping the fire.
Come on.
Because it's easy to get excited. It's easy to go forward and to say, you know what, God, this is it. I'm leaving this one at the altar. But how long are you going to leave it at the altar? Are you going to leave it there? Because keeping it's the hardest part. Because once you get in the routine of it, and once you get in the act of it, and you know how to pretend it, and you know what to say to make it sound good, then that's when you lost it. That's when it's gone. But God can keep that going.
Come on.
But God can keep this fire going. And church, I'm not saying this because I'm angry at you or I'm angry at today's church. It's because it's something that's hurting me now. It's something that's affecting me directly. I always do this. And I talk to it about so many people in my generation, and we all see the same thing, is that my generation is not standing because they don't have any but God moments. The few people that I do see serving God that are my age, they're radical. They know God. They can touch Him. They can feel Him because they've gotten that but God and they're not going to let it go.
Lord.
But the thing is that we're all lacking in faith. I'm here. I'm guilty of it. Because it doesn't make sense. The call that God has on my life doesn't make sense. I'll tell you that right now. The kind of person that I am, the way that I look, it doesn't make sense for the things that God's going to do to me, do through me, but God is going to make it possible. God's going to open those doors. God's going to speak to those people. Nicole, the things that God's going to do for you, it doesn't make sense. Trust me, it doesn't make sense for either of us to even be doing good right now because of what our families have been through, because of what our past looks like. But God doesn't care what that says. Because God sees further than that. He has something for you. I don't know what it is, but it's far greater than just standing behind this keyboard and playing a song. The people that you're going to speak to, the way that he's going to move through you is a way that he can never move through me. Each and every one of us are appointed. Each and every one of us are chosen for something specific. And regardless of what that is, God's going to make it possible. It doesn't matter if you fit the mold. It doesn't matter if you look right to the world, because God has something better. And I've been in this place, church, where it's just constantly, if only this made sense. It doesn't make sense. I've been everywhere else and I just didn't get it. And finally, it got to the point where Jesus said, "Why are you questioning me? Just trust me. Just trust me. Just reach out and trust me. Because my way is so much better." That song that she was singing this morning, it's so much better his way. Stop shouting out suggestions. Stop moving people your way, because it's so much better when it's his way. Church, I just want to see people that are on fire. I want to see young people that are just crazy. But a good kind of crazy. Because trust me, I see them already crazy. But when are we going to start doing something about it? I remember when we first started the church, I would say, well, if only there was more youth here. But what was I doing about it? See, we'll sit here and we'll make these if-onlys, but when do we pray about it? Church, it's time to have these but God moments. It's okay to not be 100% full of faith all the time, because that's what makes us human. That statement that says, oh, God doesn't give you anything that you can't handle. Yes, I just had hot eyes behind the pulpit. But that makes no sense, because if he didn't give us things that we couldn't handle, then we wouldn't need him. Everything that we get, we can't handle. We have to trust him. We have to put our faith in him. That doesn't make any sense. That is probably my least favorite saying that anybody says, not just Christians. But it's true. Church, we just need to start having our but God moments. That doesn't mean that we don't lack in faith. That doesn't mean that we don't get scared sometimes, because trust me, I'm scared a lot of the time. But God. That's it. When the enemy tries to creep in, just remember that promise. But God. But God said that I was going to do this. But God said that he was going to pull me through. But God said that he was going to save my generation. But God said that Nicole was going to go on. But God said that he was going to start raising up leaders in this church. But God said that he was going to start a revival here, now, not tomorrow, not next year, not maybe next week, but now.